Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Goal Line Hockey. And today we are going to continue the playoff preview series as we take a look at the Boston Bruins and the Columbus Blue Jackets in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Which one of these teams is heading to the Eastern Conference Finals? So, obviously, the Boston Bruins were a team that had to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, go to Game 7 once again, and they were able to beat the Leafs again for a third consecutive time in the past decade. And we'll see what happens. So, meanwhile, Columbus, the unbelievable story, they were expected to get knocked out. I mean, people were predicting, jokingly saying, Tampa in one. Tampa during the regular season was so above everybody else. And for Columbus to go in the first round, Sergei Bobrovsky standing on his head. He's always been suspect in the Stanley Cup playoffs, not in the first round. He had some blips during the 4 games, but they sweep the Tampa Bay Lightning. A historic season for the Tampa Bay Lightning ends in 4 games thanks to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe, and let's get right into who is going to win this series. All right, so taking a look at the forwards for both of these teams, Columbus definitely narrowed the edge between these two in terms of their forwards. At the trade deadline, picking up Ryan Dzingel, Matt Duchene, some guy that people have heard of. No, but all kidding aside, Columbus really has some really great forwards on their team. Artemi Panarin, like I mentioned, Duchene, Dzingel. Dzingel hasn't produced as much as I think people would hope, but Pierre-Loup Dubois, Josh Anderson. There's some really great pieces. Mark Texier. But then you look at the Boston Bruins. And I love that bottom 6 that the Boston Bruins have built. And they're healthy, overall. And they can play any game you want. If Columbus wants to play a run and gun game, because they can't outcompete the Boston Bruins, which I don't think is going to happen. I think this is going to be a grinded out series. We know John Tortorella, very defensive minded. Boston as well, very defensive minded and trying to wear the other team down. So I'm really looking forward to this series. This is going to be probably one of the more physical series we're going to see in these playoffs. And compared to what Boston had to deal with in the first round with the Leafs, which was very, very much more run and gun, I don't think we're going to see that in this series. It's going to be a tight series, and it's going to be a lot of grinding the other team down, and that's because of Boston's bottom 6. We know who they've got on the top line. You've got one of the best top lines in the NHL in Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, and David Pastrnak. That's a given. Then you go to the second line. You've got Jake DeBrusk, Marcus Johansson, whoever slots in on the other wing, and then you've got David Krejci. Hands down, that's a really great top 6. And then you look at the bottom 6, you've got Danton Heinen, Sean Corrali, Nola Cherry, really some, and they proved it. They proved it in Game 7. We saw what, Corrali scoring a big goal there toward the end of the game in Game 7. This Boston team is someone to deal with. And then I didn't even talk about some of the guys like David Backes, who's really helped turn this series around for the Boston Bruins in the last series against the Maple Leafs. So, really exciting. And just the matchup between these two teams in terms of forwards is going to be interesting. Let's get into the defense. So, looking at the defense, I give the edge once again to the Boston Bruins. Ending the lineup with Charlie McAvoy, Zdeno Chara, Torrey Krug. That's tough to beat. That's really, really tough to beat. And this is really close as well because you look at the Columbus Blue Jackets who have guys like Seth Jones, Zach Werenski. I mean, they've got, David Savard really came on here in the playoffs. So Columbus has some really, really great pieces on the back end as well. But I just like Boston's experience. There's, guys like Chara that he doesn't have the foot speed, but he has the experience as well as Torrey Krug. McAvoy not as much, but he's made the playoffs. He's been with this team now for long enough. He's won a couple of playoff series with this team, and this is a really, really great matchup. I'm these two defenses, really, they've got 3 or 4 guys, and that the top fours are really, really solid. I think it's going to come down to that top six. Who's probably going to have to handle one of the top lines. How are they going to be able to match up? Are they going to be able to match up? And they really need to shine in this second round. Then looking at goaltending, this is probably one of the easier decisions I had to make in terms of goaltending comparisons. I'm giving this to the Columbus Blue Jackets because of Sergei Bobrovsky in round 1. If he has the right mindset and he comes into the series ready to go like he did against the Tampa Bay Lightning, if he could be as lights out as he was in round 1, this could be another quick series. He stole games in round 1 for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Can he do that again here in round 2? And Tuukka Rask looked a little bit spotty, if I'm going to be completely honest, in round 1. He seemed a little off. And obviously in Game 7, he really stepped up. Game 6, he played fairly well. But Game 7 really was if he can come in to this series with that same mark, this is going to be a really, really good series. And if not, if he's giving up weak goals at really bad points in a hockey game, Columbus could really shock some people. So, season series between these two teams, Boston won 2 of the 3, so 2-1 Boston during the season series. So, the first game, a crazy game, 7-4 Columbus, so a lot of goals. 2-1, an overtime victory for the Boston Bruins, and then a 6-2 Boston victory. So, I'm a little bit surprised by the amount of goals based off of both of these teams' philosophy of trying to keep the puck out of your own zone and get the puck deep, make the other team work hard, in their own zone. I'm somewhat surprised by 7-4 and 6-2 being in there. The 2-1 is, I think, more what we're going to expect in this series in the playoffs. Things are totally different during the regular season, but both these teams really blew each other out in each of their dominant victories. But we'll see what happens. And now, so my prediction, and this is going to kill me in 2 weeks from now, but I'm saying Boston wins this series in 7 games. And the big reason I have Boston even winning this series, it's so close, is because they have home ice advantage. If they take advantage of the home ice advantage, and not even just the fans, we're talking about, getting the right matchups out there and just the mentality that they have home ice, it's going to be a confidence boost for the Bruins. We saw what they were able to do in Game 7 the past couple of years against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Having that home ice is huge, and I think that's going to be huge once again in this series. Boston will win this series in 7. Okay, so now, my thoughts heading into the series. So, can Columbus's depth keep up with the strong Bruins depth? And we saw that a little bit with guys like Alex Texier coming in. He played with Cleveland. I believe he had 7 points in 7 games before coming up. So he's a really solid NHL player recently, and we'll see what happens. I mean, they've got some good guys. Boone Jenner. They still have Brandon Dubinsky. So how are they going to handle the Boston Bruins' really strong bottom 6? They have a really strong bottom 6. Who's going to be able to win those puck battles? I feel like that's going to be really important in this series, as it kind of ended up being in the Boston-Toronto series. So, we'll see what happens. And then, can Tuukka Rask keep up with Bobrovsky? So, I think this is interesting because I feel like Tuukka Rask may give up more weak goals, but on a more consistent. He may be, good to give up 1 or 2 goals every game, where Bobrovsky might give up 5 or 6 in one game and then play lights out another game. So this is going to be really interesting how the dynamic of these two teams works. Some really tough, hard-nosed hockey teams coached by Bruce Cassidy in Boston and John Tortorella in Columbus. And can the Columbus Blue Jackets continue their rise here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, or will the Boston Bruins, the big Bruins, go to the conference finals once again? So we'll see what happens. I have Boston winning this series in 7. Let me know, who do you think is going to win this series? It's going to be really a great series between these two hockey teams, and we'll have to see what happens. It's going to be really intense, and This is going to be a long series, I believe, and whoever on the other side in the Metro, either the Hurricanes or the Islanders, is going to have a really beat-up team on the other side here in Columbus and Boston. So thank you for watching this video, and giving this video a thumbs up, and to subscribe. Thank you for watching us here at Goal Line Hockey. Have a good day.